This is our first double release, I believe, and definitely the first double review. So I was like, how are we going to do this? Two beers releasing on the same day? Do I do separate reviews? Do I do the same? Is it QR codes? You're going to go to the YouTube review. I decided just to do them together because it kind of shows the difference between two totally different styles of beers. So what we are releasing this Friday the 25th is our Key Lime Light and our Caramel Macchiato Milk Stout. Two completely different styles. And how did these come about? Well, we'll start off with the Key Lime Light. We kind of made this beer based off of our Key Lime Exotic Matter that happened way earlier this year, which was a delicious beer. Key Lime is great for New England IPAs. And when we worked up this beer as a experiment in the Valley, I ran the math. I thought I wrote it down legibly. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna scale it up. We need this much key lime to scale up Exotic Matter Key Lime. So we ordered that much key lime. And when we scaled it up, the way we do things for flavors that we're not super used to working with is we'll do the primary fermentation, and while it's done fermenting, all the sugars that are going to ferment have fermented, so you have the balance there. Then we'll add in some of that fruit with like a little pipette, kind of figure out how much we need just to double check it, and then we scale it up from there. So we did that with Exotic Matter Key Lime, and I must have wrote my notes wrong on the experimental batch in the Valley because we had way much more key lime than we needed. You only need, comparatively speaking with most fruits, probably a fifth of key lime per volume of beer than any other fruits. A lot of fruits, say in the Valley, you see those 5 fermenters, those are 3.5 barrels. We usually do 4 to 5 boxes, 44-pound boxes per fruited goes or IPA or sour. But for key lime, we only need like half a box to 1. So we're sitting on a lot of key lime. We're like, what are we gonna do with this? So we decided to take our R.Shea Light, which is a pretty big staple in the tap room, and let's fruit it because we already did raspberry. We've got a lot of key lime. Let's see how that translates. So we worked that up, with just some base R.Shea Light and a little bit of key lime, and it tasted great. So we actually scaled up that recipe. Well, we didn't really scale it up because we haven't really made it before. We're just using base beer and juice and combining them to see if the flavor even works. But we're like, this works. We've made the R.Shea Light a whole lot that can outplace on a big scale. We'll just add this amount of key lime at the end, let it finish ferment, and let it go normally, and that's what we did. So this is the first time we ever made this beer as a fermentation, which we usually don't like to do, but we're pretty versed with fruits, key lime, going forward and making the R.Shea Light. So that's how that beer came about, and it's a perfect summer beer. It's been canned for about 3 weeks. We've been kind of sitting on it to figure out how we want to release it. Distributions has gotten some kegs, but it's probably going to be a very limited amount of cans in distribution. It's going to come mostly from our tap rooms, but I've been doing it, doing yard work, grilling. It's a great 4.5% beer, but the key lime, there's just something about it that screams summer. And then you got this beer, Caramel Macchiato Milk Stout. This is only a super limited, no distribution. It's going to be on draft, and we've got 4 layers of cans. What we did on that one was we had a base of milk stout that we use for a lot of things. And we're like, hey, let's try some Colombian coffee beans in it, a few more things, and it made a pretty good caramel macchiato. And this is based on a lab rat we did in the Valley right around March of this year. So you guys liked it. It never really came through on an untapped average because there were only 10 check-ins, and it's a lab rat. We get that. But the overall ratings and the individual ratings and what you guys wrote about it was you really liked it. And I'm like, you know what, this Colombian coffee base milk stout would be great for this caramel macchiato beer, which we ended up doing a limited run, and that is this beer. And you can see the process of making these are two completely different beers. These are the types of grains we use for each of these beers. So this is a lager base. We just use Pilsner malt, pretty much, that's it. This being a milk stout, we use a range of malts, crystals, roasted barleys, chocolates, and base malt, in addition to lactose, which is an unfermentable sugar that will give the beer a little bit more body and a little bit of residual sweetness for that style. So completely different beers. They just kind of lined up that we had them at the same time. And that is this week's release. So let's try them. Now, I've had the Key Lime Light recently. I usually just drink it out of a can, honestly. It's that good. It's crushable. And if you remember, we also did a Cinco de Mayo version of this Key Lime Light with just a touch of salt, and that was delicious too. So you got that lager smell with just a little bit of graininess. Not so much key lime on the smell. The key lime totally comes through on the flavor. Definitely not overpowering. Not bitter. Just not even sour or tart. Just slightly tart. You get a little bit of a tinkle, but you still have that lager. It's a lager, and that key lime flavor comes through beautifully. Check out the Caramel Macchiato. Now, I have been drinking this. I usually don't drink a lot of stouts in the summer, or at all. I got the caramel right on the nose. So this is a 6.5% ABV beer. The coffee's coming through too. Oh, it's just like your favorite Caramel Macchiato from. And that's one of the coffees I drank for a long time, just caramel macchiatos. I switched to a mint version, and that's what I've been drinking since. Venti peppermint mint mocha. But this, you've got the Colombian coffee beans, definitely coffee in the background. And Colombian coffee beans, they don't really give to me, a really signature coffee flavor. I'm not really a coffee connoisseur, although I drink a lot of it. Thanks, Keurig. It makes making coffee way too easy. Fresh coffee. So it's not like the Mexican Custapec or some of those other coffee beans we work with. It's just a base coffee flavors. And then that caramel is on the end. This is not a really sweet milk stout. It's very well balanced. No, this is kind of, if you like Polymer from the Valley, this is going to be the closest thing you can get to it. Because Polymer, we're using real hand-pressed espresso from Nervestal. And this very similar base beer. But this is using an actual coffee bean that we steep in the fermenter in our hot back and get those coffee flavors from, instead of adding actual espresso to the beer, which is how we make Polymer. So, but they're still very close. And you've always been clamoring, well, when can you get Polymer in distribution? Well, when we can make that much espresso on a large scale, and Nervestal is not going to lose their mind. Until then, this is your best option. And we did make polymer on a side note. We try to do it with our current coffee beaning method with like an Italian roast close to an espresso roast. It just did not translate well. But this Colombian bean translates super well for this style. And that's all we've got. Super fun, dual release. Beers couldn't be any more different. If you're looking for some food and cheese pairings, we'll start with the key lime. This is light and refreshing. So lighter meats, chicken, salmon, bratwurst, and Monterey Jack cheese. And for the milk stout, you will want to go with some spicy food and maybe some Szechuan, maybe order some Chinese takeout and get it extra spicy, maybe General Tso's or Szechuan or this or that. That would go nice with this because it's not heavy and thick or super sweet, so it will be good between bites. And as far as cheeses, buttery, well-aged cheddar. And that about covers these two beers. We hope to see you this Friday, the 25th. And the cool thing about these beers are these are at our lower price in $8.99 and $10.99. So definitely not breaking the bank on these. We still have Raspberry Light also to go with this. It's a good raspberry, key lime, build your own 4-pack. And that is it. We hope to see you this weekend, and we're starting off the summer good.